a lot of people are still running around thinking that as long as they give free stuff to people and they keep moving that free line, they'll have people line up and give them money. But the reality is that there's a way to present free information that actually leads to a sale. Welcome back to the Lisbonian Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kheifets, and today we're going to talk about getting the most out of Google Ads without blowing your money. And my co-presenter today, my guest really, is another Igor, which I think is the first time I've interviewed another Igor on the show. He's an actual scientist. He won the Youngest Scientist of the Year in Ukraine. Now he lives in Manchester, but a short while ago, he made a transition from being a promising scientist in Ukraine who was destined to do great things in Ukrainian science and math, to becoming one of the leading authorities, one of the leading European authorities on Google advertising. In fact, I kind of consider him this little known secret unfair advantage, because just before recording and publishing this episode that you're listening to right now, I've actually got him to manage my Google AdWords account, and I've already seen the account triple in a span of less than 2 weeks. And that's after me tirelessly trying to scale that thing for close to 2 years. So I felt the impact of what he knows firsthand, and that's why I wanted to get him out on the show, because it's nothing short of mind-blowing. So Igor, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for the invitation, Igor.
Awesome. Cool. So let's start with the most exciting, most interesting thing for the audience, and that is, how the hell do you end up giving up a promising career in science in favor of becoming one of those internet guys? Because as far as I remember, you told me that you were just about to take over a university or something, and then you were like, yeah, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting story. 17 years back, I always followed two paths in my life. First path, it was academic, scientific path. I discovered one of the most complicated topic in math and modeling. It's non-Newtonian liquid dynamics. It sounds very scary for average people. Yeah, fluid dynamics and so on. And I was really good in it. And second, my path always was entrepreneurial. From the high school, from the first years of university, I started to sell. So like buy something in bulk in China, resell in Ukraine, then buy something in Ukraine, resell on eBay. So like small entrepreneurship, and I started to use Google Ads for this my micro businesses. And during, I think, near 12 years, I always combined these two paths. Like at the half middle of the day, I'm a scientist, I'm a professor at the university, and after lunch, I'm an entrepreneur. And once, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, I just had an idea, like, what if I will compare how much money I receive from each of these sources, like academic life and entrepreneurial life, and how much time I invest in this. And I remembered very clearly. I opened Excel and just put in Excel like all my earnings from last year, and how big projects I finished, how much time I invested in it, and it was really I would say now it was expected, but back 5 years ago it was unexpected that 90% of my time I invested in academic path, but I received only 10% of income from total. But in entrepreneurial path, I invested 10%. It's not even Pareto. It's more the Pareto principle, 10-90. And I asked myself question, what is if I will spend on my entrepreneurship 10 times more time? I will have 10 times more income. So this decision was more about income, but I still felt that, it's like a transition from, uh, from like in Star Wars, white and dark power. From white side of power, where you scientists, you bring value to this world, you create new formulas, new ideas, so like you improve level of knowledge around the globe, and you try to transit to area where you not as valuable as you be before. It's like changing the side from white to dark, and for me it was a little bit scary. And also I had very big passion in teaching. I am really love to teach people, teach students. And then I asked myself question: okay, if I will combine my passion, values that I can give to people, and real good and real good valuable things. And I created my Google Ads online school in Ukraine. In 3 years, this school became the most significant Google Ads online school in Ukraine. I started started to teach entrepreneurs how to create effective source for the leads in their businesses.
So in a sense, you were kind of like a government lawyer who was assigned cases to protect people, right, for free, and then you were like, there's just a lot more money if I go and head out into the private practice, which is something I can completely understand. I mean, it's a transition that we hear about every day. What's really interesting is that, and I don't know if people understand this listening, because most of my audience is, they weren't necessarily born and raised in Ukraine, but we were. And I mean, people don't even realize how little teachers, scientists, even doctors get paid over there. Like, they just have no clue.
Yeah, so my salary back in university was 1,000 and half, so 1,500 per month, so near 18,000 per year, and it was quite big salary for a professor because I was a young scientist of the year. Average professor can earn near 12,000 per year, so after taxes, of course.
Yeah.
So it's really not enough, even in Ukraine, to feel you absolutely free.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to get the satisfaction from what you do, but at the same time, we live in a material world, and you can't ignore it. So you end up dabbling with selling stuff on Amazon, selling stuff on eBay, drop shipping, Alibaba, I'm assuming, stuff like that. And then you decide to combine your passion for money and teaching, and you start the largest AdWords school in Ukraine.
Exactly. And I very clearly remember this moment. First, I started to use the same approach from public academic approach, like what's the easiest way to find new clients in my online school? I will provide good, valuable webinars for all of them for free, and they will see how good am I in this area, and after this will study with me. But it was another surprise, because after my webinars, so I spent like some money to Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads. I had a webinars with 300, 400 participants. And after webinars, they usually, all of them said to me like, Igor, you are so good. It's so cool information. You are the best. Thank you, my friend. buy. And nobody bought nothing. Yeah, and several months I asked myself, like, what's the problem? Why I gave them so cool, so effective information, and nobody want to buy my course? And after this, I realized that the problem exactly in this: they receive from free source a lot of information available, and they think like, okay, I need to implement first this information, and after this, I maybe will buy his course. But of course, after several days, after several weeks, they completely forgot about me. And after this, I also start to try very common approach, like auto webinar approach in the world, when you give to listeners just piece of information and explain that, show to them how important this information, and after this build your funnel behind this free webinar.
Right. So you learn firsthand that giving people lots of stuff for free doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy from you, even if they like your free stuff. That's that's a big lesson. I think a lot of people are still running around thinking that as long as they give free stuff to people and they keep moving that free line, they'll have people line up and give them money. But the reality is that there's a way to present free information that actually leads to a sale. I think the most powerful thing about webinars is that you can always do the show them the what, but not the how, right? You can basically show them what's possible. You can show them what results you're achieving. You can show them what sort of lessons you learned, etc. But you don't go into detail about the specifics of your method, because that's what they should be wanting to buy, right? If they like everything else, if they like the potential outcomes and the way you solve your problems, your philosophy, methodology, that I call the I method, then they should pull out their credit card and vote for you with their wallet, because otherwise you're just wasting a lot of time and money teaching for free, and that can be devastating. So you end up reworking your webinar, I'm assuming. So what were some of the changes you made?
So I cut like 80% of teaching content and put inside my story, my own story. I always thought that just like, who interested in my story? Nobody cares about my story. I thought, like, the most important thing, how smart am I? How much information can I give for them? But in fact, people are really interested in my story. Uh, People love story in general. Stories is good. Yes, and I put my story, and it was another mind changed moment. I always afraid to sell with passion. When you not just give value with passion, but you should sell with passion. Explain why they should pay just now during webinar, because they will receive some bonuses, because timer goes up and so on. And I'm like a little bit struggled with myself, but after some days of struggling, I started to I recorded webinar with I would say classical Russell Brunson structure, when you have a big domino, three beliefs, and you just go through all of this stuff. And I very clearly remember this evening. It was live webinar, and after this webinar, I earned my first $10,000 in one evening from my own info business, and I realized, whoa, it works.
It does. It does. A couple of years back, maybe 4 or 5 years back, when I got into the webinar scene, and I already thought that I'm way too late into it. Um, that was exactly what happened to me as well. I didn't use Russell Brunson structure, but I also approached it from a position of, I have to teach, right? I probably should teach them something cool, and then um, you know once that didn't work, I just took out nearly all teaching, I swear. Like I just made the webinar about the story and some beliefs as well. And then at some point just transitioned to the pitch. And then, the pitch was actually like the portion of the webinar that was the pitch was actually bigger than the portion of the webinar that was the teaching. So I went from having like an hour and 20-minute teaching part and then maybe a 40-minute pitch, went down to like a 35-minute teaching, which was really story, results, beliefs, and then transition into the pitch where it takes me about, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes to outline the offer, and then it's just closing arguments, bonuses, reassurance, answering common questions. And what's really cool is that I realized people actually love to buy. And what's even more like for me, that was like a big revelation. A lot of them want to rewatch the same webinar because I think for some people it's almost like it's like their Netflix, for the lack of a better term. Like a lot of them actually just love getting on webinars and watching those webinars and learn new stuff.
Completely agree with you, and I can say I love to buy something as well, especially education courses. Yeah, it's good. Like all of our world market economy built on the basics that all of us love to buy something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.